Hi everybody, this is Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy, and we're going to do something I haven't done in a long time, and that's go to the mailbag. And yes, I get a lot of email, as you can imagine, some of it not so nice, but here's one today, an actual email, because I couldn't do this if it wasn't real, okay? So this is from a fellow named Chris, and I told him I'd probably reply via email because this comes up a lot. Hi Phil, I'm interested in getting a Bridgeport to start building my home shop. Do you think there is still money to be made going this route? I've been in the industry for about 10 years and I love what I do, but what I see is strictly CNC. I fell in love with the trade cranking handles in high school in shop class, but figured that was an obsolete way to go. Just looking for an honest opinion from someone that's been around the trade longer than I have. Thank you, from Chris. Well, first of all, Chris, yes, I've been around the trade longer than you. I don't know how you knew that. Boy, do I have a lot to say about that. And this is going to be the fun part about this. I don't know why I put myself through this, because I'm going to manage to irritate two sides. I got the one side that's the FOG, the effing old guy, that thinks we have to do things the old-fashioned way, and then the old guys that think I had a guy in our shop that, because I run a CNC machine, thought I was a button pusher. So this will probably blow up some heads, but that's why I am here. So respectfully, it's been an interesting week about Bridgeport mills. I posted this picture from Kerner Tool and Die back in 1958, and all those guys running the Bridgeports. And I remember my first experience in a tool room and seeing all those tool makers lined up in their white aprons running Bridgeports. Well, back in those days, in the 70s, and when I came in the trade, that's all they had, right? That's what you ran, that's what you did. And they were very versatile machines. I get it. And then back in the 90s, the knockoffs came out, the Acers and things like that. So I know the Bridgeport mills have a cult following. I get that. And I grew up on manual machines. And again, I got pretty good with the Bridgeport, as you can imagine. That's all I had. And not only just standard stuff, but don't forget, working in the mold industry, I didn't sometimes have to tip the head on one angle, I had to tip it on a compound angle, which is a whole nother ball game, right? So very versatile machines. So you're probably wondering when I'm going to drop the other shoe here, right? Well, here's the deal. That's ancient technology. It really is. Several years ago, I got a comment from somebody online saying, how much he loves running his Bridgeport, and I said, you're killing yourself, and he didn't like that. And I know the cult, man. I love those machines too, but a couple funny stories about that. Many years ago, the fellow that ran our department, called the manual department at where I work, they had a bunch of Bridgeports and some Blanchard grinder, and usually for repair stuff, right? And he was going to be on vacation. They asked me if I could oversee the manual department. I thought, that might be fun. So they handed me a little block and said, hey, can you make that? And I said, I haven't run a Bridgeport in 20 years. And, it comes right back to the drawbar. There's a whole ballet, right? Drawbar, left hand here, brake. You don't forget that stuff. But what I did forget was the, cranking the handle manually, the locks, the readouts. And, luckily we had a readout even. I got chips in my face. And after about 3 minutes, I said, I can just do this in my Mazak. Now, for you guys that are Bridgeport guys and don't want to learn G-code, man, I can have you up and running on a Mazak in a couple weeks. And years ago, 1986, my boss came to me and said, what do you think about running a Mazak? I said, no. He said, well, it really wasn't a question. Well, the first week was miserable because the guy who was supposed to be training me was on vacation, and the guy who was training me was horrible. The second week, the guy came back, and I thought, wow, this is amazing, right? And here's what I loved. You need an 1.25 inch hole, 1.250, and a hole comes out at 1.248. You comp your cutter. Really. I don't have to go hunt for a reamer, try to make a reamer cut oversized. None of that. And then for positioning, are you kidding me? 400 inches a minute? That's where you die on a Bridgeport, right? Cranking to the next location. Cranking to the next location. Lock the table, drill the hole, pull the drill out, ream the hole. Start all over again. Crank to the next. So the answer to your question is, if you don't want to make any money, get that Bridgeport. That's as simple as that. And I know that they're the holy grail from some guys. For some guys, again, about 2 years ago, a guy met me at the door. He says, I have a question for you. There's a Bridgeport for sale in my neighborhood. The guy wanted $2,500, and if you bought it, he might give you a lead to a customer he had. Well, I told him, I said, where is it? He said, in his basement. I said, well, does he have a basement door? No, you got to drag it up the stairs. So I looked it up. I think they weigh about 1,200 pounds. They said, you're going to have to take the whole thing apart, drag this thing up. And don't forget, those stairs were probably in a lot better shape 25 years ago than they are now. Well, he didn't end up buying it. And I told him the real deal was, tell him the guy had 1 week to get rid of it. For me, I'd say I'll get it out of your basement for free. I mean, seriously, but everybody still thinks that's the way to make money. I don't think it is. Again, if you don't want to make any money and you just want to do this work on your own, for your own edification, they're great. They're a lot of fun. And I know there's people watching this that they work on these every day. But if I put you on a Mazak for 2 weeks and you saw how fast you could do things, it's the same thing. The only thing I can't do is tip the head, right? And then I get around that with sign plates and things. So in the end, again, the positioning and the accuracy of the positioning, these things repeat within a couple tenths every time at 400 inches a minute. So some basic programming to learn, yes, but if you want to make any money, I don't see how you could do it with a Bridgeport unless you had somebody who would feed you work that you can do quickly on a Bridgeport. I mean, if you're going to build a fixture plate with 42 holes that are different size, I don't know how you make any money on that. But if it's simple stuff, a lot of shops, believe me, have been started with Bridgeport mills. So I'm not anti-Bridgeport. I'm not anti-guys who run Bridgeports. I get it. But, to compete now, I don't care what you're building, the conversational controls on a Mazak, it's easy to learn, and it's so much faster. You get to blow coolant in there, shut the doors, no more chips in your teeth and in your hair at the end of the day. Maybe you like that. It was fun. I remember my hair, I could actually smell it burning one time. But those days are gone. So, again, not anti-Bridgeport, but to Chris, I don't think you can make any money with one unless you have a very special customer. And if you have that guy who can feed you work, maybe it's the way to go. But if you don't, going out knocking on doors, trying to make money and saying, I have a Bridgeport mill, I don't think so. So I'll be interested in your response to this. And again, I learned on a Bridgeport, and today I would still say the greatest machine ever to train people on. That's how you learn the trade, no doubt. But that's not where the trade is now. So you learn the manual and then you go to the CNC because that's the way it is. That's just the way the trade has changed. So I am Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy, broadcasting from the Jewel of the Rust Belt, Erie, Pennsylvania, down here in the bunker surrounded by Tool and Die Guy history. Check everything out at thetoolanddieguy.com and let the commentary begin. Be nice.